I am standing in front of my house right now, a two-story home with a big yard in the suburbs of Denver, Colorado. 3 years ago, I was sleeping in my car for 4 months straight. Now I am holding the keys to my own place. My phone keeps buzzing with calls from people who told me I was no longer part of their family. They want in. They want to celebrate with me. They want to act like nothing ever happened. Should I answer? Let me tell you my story first. Before we begin, drop a comment and let me know where you are watching from today. If this story touches you, hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Now, let me take you back to where it all started, so you can understand why I will never open that door for them again. My name is Burke, and I grew up in a small town called Greeley, about an hour drive from Denver. Our family was what most people would call ordinary. My dad, Harold, worked as a plumber. My mom, Diane, was a cashier at the local grocery store. We were not rich, but we had enough to get by. I have an older brother named Wesley, who is 4 years older than me, and a younger sister named Caitlin, who is 3 years younger. Being the middle child meant I was always stuck somewhere in between. Wesley was the firstborn son, the one my parents pinned all their hopes on. Caitlin was the baby girl, the one who got spoiled and protected. And me, I was just there. The quiet one, the responsible one, the one who never caused any trouble. When I turned 16, I got my first job at a pizza shop downtown. I worked there after school and on weekends to buy my own clothes and school supplies. My parents never asked me to do it. I just knew that if I wanted anything beyond the basics, I had to earn it myself. That was the unspoken rule in our house when it came to me. I studied hard and got a partial scholarship to a university in Denver. I majored in accounting because I was good with numbers and I wanted a stable career. During college, I worked 2 part-time jobs to cover my rent and expenses. I barely slept, but I made it through. I graduated with decent grades and landed a job at a small accounting firm right after. When I was 23 years old, freshly employed and finally feeling like I had my life together, Wesley called me out of nowhere. He said he was in trouble. Gambling debts. He needed $3,000 to pay off some guys who were threatening him. He promised he would pay me back within 6 months. I gave him the money. He was my brother.